Okay, we're live here, and I'm so excited today to be to have Lucy DeMoss on in my groups here. She's an amazing portrait photographer, and we met in a Facebook group, I think, for photographers. And she's had me on her podcast a couple times. It's called The Profitable Photographer. She teaches photographers how to be profitable and make, a lot of money in their business. So I thought it would be great for her to come on today. I have two groups, one for branding photographers, one for businesses who want to have a luxury service. So that's what Lucy provides for her clients. So why don't you tell us a little bit about you and your business and where you're at, that kind of thing.
So hi, I'm excited to get to turn the tables instead of interviewing you.
Yeah.
Putting myself in your hands to kind of, dig into the stuff that's in my little brain. I've been in business 39 years and full-time, no rich husband, never won the lottery, got inheritance. And the first, up until 7 years ago, it was weddings for 12 and then portraits. I'm the baby whisperer. So if anybody ever has questions about photographing children, that's my photographic passion. About 7-8 years ago, I got this sort of call from on high to also be helping photographers. I've always mentored, and I turned it into a more formal endeavor. And then 2 years ago, the podcast idea showed up in my world. And so the podcast, The Profitable Photographer, you probably saw it, Tanya, it's been in 74 countries and 44,000 downloads.
Wow, that's amazing.
Worldwide, I and my guests like you get to support photographers to achieve their dreams and help people have amazing photographs, because I love that.
Yeah.
So that's my story in a nutshell. I'm in San Diego. I apologize to everyone who's suffering because 4th of July weekend is now, and they say we're going to have perfect weather. So
yeah, right. We lived in San Diego for like 9 months, and it was the best weather of my entire life. Like 70 degrees every day. It was awesome. So.
Yeah, I mean, we do get those hundreds, and we do get 40s, but yeah. So anyway, so that's my story. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks for coming on today. So if anyone has questions, leave them in the comments for Lucy, and we'll just get in. So what are some principles of offering a luxury service to your clients?
That is such a rich conversation. Maybe 2 months ago, I did a podcast on the topic.
Okay.
I don't remember why, but as I looked at those notes and made new ones, it's just like, anyway, so I could
just pick one.
So the definition I came up with is luxury is a condition of abundance, ease, or comfort. It's something that you have in your life, not out of necessity, but for joy, for beauty, to feel good, to pamper yourself. Some people, it's, they feel more important if they can have the VIP experience. So there's a status quality. It's not usually my core, but there are studios where their goal is to reach people who would buy a car because of status, who would live in the right neighborhoods. And so you can build a brand where you're considered like anyone has a Jonathan Smith portrait.
Right.
But it's not necessary. So luxury, I wrote down like 7 things. But what it does for us is we stand out from the competition. There is room at the top always in every industry.
Right.
So for people who are like, oh, no, you can't do that in in my town or my city or my state or my country, because there are so many people doing cheap and cheerful photography.
Mhm.
Well, that's the exact place that people can be successful by offering service,
Mhm.
quality, artistry, creating a yummy environment, dressing a cut above what most people are wearing in your community as photography, being a listener, uh, caring about, well, and I know we all care about our clients, but building a relationship.
Mhm.
Simplicity, that's another feature. If you look at expensive perfumes or any really high-end brand,
Mhm.
their, their logos, their design, their environment is usually very simple.
Right.
And it's the cluttered that we perceive as cheaper.
Mhm.
Uh, there's also no rush. There was a Facebook post uh, that I was on today where someone was like, I don't want to have a phone call and a consultation both because it
Mhm.
takes too much time.
Right.
And for me, time is not anything I reference with my clients. Like,
Mm.
I don't have this session's an hour or you
Right.
pay more and it's an hour and a half. It's like, here's the session. We block 2 hours. Sometimes it takes more, sometimes it takes less.
Mhm.
Or, um, yeah. So
Yeah.
those
Yeah,
are,
that's something in my business I've used as well. And like if people call me and they're like, "We need pictures tomorrow," I'm like, "Sorry," because my sessions do take time to plan, and I'm booked out a couple of months.
mhm.
So, and same thing where I'm not like this session's an hour. I block out a whole day actually for my branding clients. We don't take a whole day, but I don't want to have anything else cluttering my mind or my attention on
Mhm,
that day. So
mhm.
yeah, I agree with you. That's a big one.
Yes, I um, something I just said that just kind of flew away.
Oh, sorry.
No, it it was I was listening so intently that I was like, "Now I'll get back to that."
Okay.
But I'm the same with I only do one portrait session a day or one sales session
Mhm.
because my sales sessions are as creative and involved, and I never know if it's gonna take an hour and a half or I've had them take 4 or 5 hours.
Wow.
But when they end up with 4 to 10 wall portraits, I'm okay with a 4-hour
Right.
sales consultation
Yeah.
as long as I'm priced for profit, which of
Mhm.
course I am. What else about luxury? So I was thinking about the difference between, like a hair salon that is by appointment only, and
Mhm.
there are highly trained, um, stylists with the newest technology, the newest designs that understand facial analysis and just have a high level of taste and skill versus some place that you can have walk-in.
Yeah, right.
And if you think about the environment and how different those should be,
Mhm.
um, that's when we're the ones that are the by appointment and where the perception is that we are artists and
Mm,
not shooters,
right. Yeah.
basically. That
Yeah.
adds to that luxury experience.
Right, yeah, and in that high-end salon, like, it's gonna be decorated differently, there's probably gonna be music, like, maybe smells that are nice,
Mhm.
they might bring you a water or champagne or something,
Yeah,
as
yeah.
opposed to, like, supercuts where the goal is to get you in and out as quickly as possible, and there's markets for both of those, right? Like, I
Yep.
take my kids to supercuts because I want it to be as fast and cheap as possible,
Mhm.
but for myself, if I wanna go to the spa or something, I want it to be a really amazing pampering experience, and I'm willing to pay more for that, and I want it to take more time, right?
Right,
So,
right.
yeah, I think those are really great points.
Yeah. I think one of the challenges during COVID, because I think especially women, and that's most of our
Mhm.
clients, Now you, with your branding, I imagine you also do your fair share of men.
Yeah, I do.
But women like to be pampered, and we
Mhm.
like to spend money
Yeah.
on things that aren't simply food and clothes that we aren't naked. But
Right. Your clothes.
I know I've been suffering a little from no place to spend a
Right.
little pampering money, or the travel, or things like that, and
Yeah.
it's just the simple things sometimes.
Right.
I
Yeah.
had an idea for one of my coaching clients. I don't know. Do you know Leon Johnson?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, he does amazing portraits of women that are reminiscent of a Renaissance,
Mm.
and they're just something that feels really timeless. And my thought for him, because he called me to talk about luxury, so it's great that I got to chat. If I had his business, I would buy beautiful robes and put my logo on it.
Mm.
So during the whole session and the makeup and everything, they would wear it, and then I would hand them a little beautiful bag with tissue, and they'd take the robe home.
That's such a good idea. I love that.
What's it gonna cost you? Like, you probably can get a volume something for, like, $30.
Yeah, right.
You know, if you're making 4 or 5, 10, $20,000,
Mhm.
no big
Yeah,
deal.
that's such a good idea. I love it. Let's see, Megan has a question here. Do you feel a starting business can launch into the luxury market out of the gate?
Absolutely. In fact, I think you're better off to
Mhm.
do it that way.
Yep.
I have a friend that he'd been around in the world a while, so he had some experience with businesses and so forth. But he decided he was gonna open a studio in the perfect location in San Diego. It's a coastal community that probably 70% of my best family clients over the decades live there.
Mhm.
And it's a street that has luxury gift shops and restaurants, and it's a place you'd go for fun for the day with your girlfriend. And he went to, I don't know if it was 2 or 3 photographers, spent a week or 2 volunteering in their studio to learn how they run their business. He went
Mhm.
to Bruce Hudson, he's a longtime friend, he's been on my podcast, and a couple other people. So he got a really solid foundation. And when he opened his studio, his lowest package was like 1,500. He had 6 really big wall portraits. The decor was impeccable. He dressed like a superstar, not
Mhm.
so fancy that it wasn't comfortable,
Yeah.
but um, clearly, like, he's probably expensive. And he routinely in the first 2 years sold his top package of 8,000 and was flown to Paris to do a wedding.
Wow.
You know, he was not even a photographer when he started.
Mhm.
He just decided, "I'm gonna open a photography studio," and then he learned everything
Wow.
and started in that luxury market.
Mhm.
Now,
Yeah.
the downside is when the big 2009 recession hit, he hadn't been in tough times.
Mhm.
So, so that period was a challenge, and he had
Mhm.
to really pivot and make some tough decisions. So, one of the beautiful things about this last year, plus that we've all been through, is those of us that are still reaching, still learning, still growing. We're like, we've been working out, working out. So as things open up, we're just going to be,
Yeah.
and a lot of people are going to be not in the industry anymore that didn't
Right.
do what it took to, and this is the last time I'm going to say this ever, pivot.
Yeah. Right. For me, actually, 2020 was my best year ever because so many businesses were going online or ramping up their marketing because they needed to do more of
Mhm.
it. And so being in that position of working with businesses, which was actually really good for me. And I've noticed several photographers making that pivot or adding on, like, oh, I should work with businesses in addition to
Yeah.
doing portraits or weddings. So yeah, that's a really good point. But I agree with you. If you start out super cheap, it's hard to pivot because your clientele is not going to be, you're going to lose all of your clientele. You might as well start at the beginning,
Mhm.
targeting those people.
Right.
So
Yeah. One of my coaching clients, he wanted to start a business. He didn't know what. So first we figured out that pet photography would be great for him. And I gave him
Mhm.
assignments, and he would find people he would photograph for free. And I don't even think he was yet ready to do the sale. So
Mhm.
he was just gifting them some prints and
Right.
for free. And
Mhm.
then when he was ready, he had his first client, and his prices were at the profitable
Mhm.
point.
Mhm.
And it was a $2,000 sale. It would have been 4,000, but we hadn't gotten to the part in my teaching of how you close a sale that day and
Right.
not say, I'll get back to you with the price.
Yeah.
Still, it was 2,000 first
That's
one.
awesome.
So if
Mhm.
you think about how many $200 sessions, that would have been 10.
Right.
About how much work those 10 would be, and all
Mhm.
those 10 would be referring him to people who were expecting to pay $100 or
Right.
$200 for a session. So, yes, I know, we agree with each other on
Yeah.
that
Yeah,
portion.
totally. Yeah, my branding students, I mean, I recommend they don't do anything less than 1,500, like, and I see people charging a couple $100 for this commercial photography, and I'm like, "What are you doing?" Like,
Yeah,
these businesses are making money from these photos.
right,
You should be, in the several thousand dollars for what
right,
you're offering.
yeah,
Uh, and as long as you're a competent photographer and can produce, good images, there's no reason why you shouldn't be charging that much.
right,
So,
right. Now that being said, so I don't want some people to be like, "Oh, I'm just gonna mark everything way up."
yeah.
Most of So my strategy in the portrait world has been to have an entry level investment
Mhm.
high enough, and usually 5 to 700 is a sweet spot.
Right.
If
Mhm.
someone will put down that much before the session, I know a 2, 4, 5, 10,000 plus sale
Right.
is in the works.
Mhm.
Because if someone's not, if 500 is too much for them, it weeds them out.
Right.
But my strategy to build on that sale is consistent. I think for me, if I said starting point is 1,500, a lot of my wonderful qualified clients would say, well,
Yeah.
you know,
Right. Yeah,
so
I
it's
have a little
your
different sales
strategy.
strategy for businesses. Most of them
Very
wanna know upfront how much they're gonna be spending, like, they might have to get approval on a budget or, that kind of thing, so I'm doing more selling on the front, and
right.
so it's a little bit different.
Mhm.
But I think for portraits, the way you sell is the right way to do it because it's more
Yeah,
of an emotional thing, they see the pictures and then buy after. So
right,
I think that's super important. It's more of a product you created for them, right?
right.
Um yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
So
Now, with weddings, um, when I did them for 12 years, and when I work with people who specialize in weddings, we come up with some packages.
mhm,
As it is, it's just how the world is with
right.
weddings. And I've always created packages that look like plenty, but have space to add.
Yeah.
So if someone invested in my middle package, which is what overall I always wanted them to do that much,
Mhm,
and if I got a lot of people booking the top package, then I added a package above that, and I simplified,
right.
middle needs to be the sweet spot. So it has 60 photographs in an album and a wall portrait
Mhm,
and about 6 to 7 hours of coverage.
right.
And for most people, whatever they invested before the wedding, they would add 50 to 100%.
Wow, that's awesome.
So if it was a $4,000 package, then they would almost always buy another $2 to $4,000.
Right. So, like, more albums or more photos.
In the book, parent
Right.
books, gifts for bridesmaids and groomsmen, uh,
Yeah,
that
cool.
stuff. So
Right.
strategies in each individual, specialty.
Right. Yeah. Cool. I love that. So as far as the experience goes with your portrait photographers, like what little things are you adding that are kind of like the robe with the logo on it for your clients?
So I think thank you cards go a long way.
Right.
And I'm not big on, first of all, I don't suggest and I don't serve any alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
Number one.
Actually.
What?
I don't either.
Number one, it scrambles the brain.
Yeah.
It's harder to get the eyes to sparkle during a session.
Right.
It's harder to get them to either close a sale or they do and they overspent for the comfort zone. And I knew that, I don't know if you know this, Tanya, but while I was building my photography business, I also was selling a skincare that was a competitor of Mary Kay, but Jafra.
Oh, yeah.
They had really good support for learning how to be an awesome salesperson. And I noticed if I served, or if the hostess, because I would have parties at people's houses, if they served the alcohol before I closed the sale, the exact same thing happened. Either they couldn't decide or they would overspend. And then that dreaded thing when they call and say, I think I need to reduce my report. And it's tricky. I haven't come up with the perfect little snack because I'm a sugar addict. So if you serve me the best cookies in the world, you might find me in the gutter with Krispy Kreme, 3 months later that I've totally gone off the wagon.
Right.
Gluten and all that. It's tricky. But so time is something I've mentioned. The environment, there's color harmony, good branding that really communicates what the experience is like to work with us. The best compliments I got when I redid my logo and my website and such many years ago, people would come to the door and say, "You're exactly who I expected to meet."
That's so important.
That's what good branding is. And a consistency.
Right. And
so if you're doing a show, if it's a bridal show or it's something that attracts executives, this to business expo, having that clarity and setting your booth up so that people still remember my booth from the bridal show 25 years ago. Wow. Probably my last one. Because it was very me and it was very part of the branding. So that's part of it. I'm really big on comfort. So in my sales room, conference room, I have nice looking office chairs that feel like they'd be in a home because my business is out of my home. So people can rock and swivel and be comfortable.
Nice.
And I hate most people's couches. I've got to have my feet up and the right pillow. So the comfort, and of course things need to be clean. And now I'm going to humbly admit that my sales room, it's a challenge to keep it from being cluttery. It's not very big, but the less clutter, the better. But the less clutter, the better. Right. If you're selling wall portraits, big portraits, beautifully framed on the walls.
Yes.
And on easels in corners and no tiny stuff. Trinkets, that's the other thing about your products. If it's simple, I see a lot of people have too many things.
Right.
And that confuses. Well, and so is there a Nordstrom in your area and is there a Nordstrom rack?
Yes, we have both.
Okay. So they're the same products, but the experience in Nordstrom, there's soft music.
Right.
There's actually a slight fragrance that when you go home and if you purchase something, and it's not offensive, I'm allergic to perfume, but there's just a little something. Somebody pointed out when they put your bag, what you purchased, and they wrap it in paper and they put it in a nice bag. They walk around the counter and hand it to you.
Right. Yeah.
There's carpets.
Hmm.
You can look across, like there's lots of open space.
Right.
So you go to Nordstrom Rack, for those who maybe never have, and it's the same products, but it's cluttered.
Mm.
There's linoleum on the floors. Maybe they have some patches of like industrial carpet.
Right.
The dressing rooms, they don't like,
Fluorescent lights.
yeah, fluorescent light. Nordstrom store, the dressing rooms, they come and check on you. They go get more
Right.
things. They serve you, but they don't breathe down your neck to make you
Right.
feel
Yeah.
comfortable.
They'll even like modify your clothes, right? Like
Oh,
take
yeah.
the tailoring. I think it's
Right.
free or very small
It's free if it's
fee.
not on sale. If it's
Yeah.
sale,
Oh, okay.
yes.
Yeah.
And whereas the Rack, like more than once I've gone in there, I picked up a couple little things. And then there's this set of counters, and the line was
Right. Yeah.
and so I would just put it away and leave. Like I've
Mhm.
probably done that about 5 times because it was
Yeah.
something so important I was willing to wait in that
Right.
whole
Yeah.
line.
And like the dollar bins, right? I mean,
Yeah.
there's like I said, there's a market for both. I've shopped at both,
Oh, absolutely.
you know, right? But yeah, that experience is definitely um better. I remember going my sister's wedding, we had to wear a certain color and I could not find a dress anywhere at the bargain places, you know? So I went to Nordstrom and it was exactly like that. I told her, I was like, I need a dress in one of these colors. I like it to have sleeves versus no sleeves, you know, and she brought me all the things and they tailored it for me and it was amazing. So yeah, that's a good example of the contrast between, you know, the DIY and the bargain and then the luxury experience.
Yes, that's the other thing. I was thinking about, like if you want to buy a nice candle
Mhm.
from some luxury store that sells like exquisite candles,
Right.
whatever that would be, they're not going to sell you the wick and the dye and the fragrance and the
Right.
wax and the holder, and you go home and you make it yourself.
Mhm.
So just the fact of helping people, like my overall goal is to become the trusted advisor.
Mhm.
And I do that by listening. That's another really important thing that
Right.
probably I excel at more than the environment, because I've already admitted I can be a little cluttery. Um, is I give so much attention to developing that connection, becoming their friend, but not like their best friend that they expect a discount,
Right.
but an advisor, an expert.
Mhm.
So that at a certain point they surrender to my leadership.
Mhm.
And I bought a new luxury latex bed, and I went to 3 different places that basically have the same products. Probably
Mhm.
the mattress materials came from the very same, like they probably a truck dropped some off at this store, then this store, then
Right.
this store. Of course, the one that I chose, um, immediately she formed a connection. She asked
Mhm.
what I was looking for. She listened to my story about being the princess and the pea. And, and she explained the different kinds of latex and why different layers of different ones will give you a different feeling.
Mhm.
And and it each bed had its own track lighting, the wall colors, the everything, the branding, the brochure, the business cards.
Mhm.
It was clean, it was simple, it was open, but the core of it was the relationship
Mhm.
and the listening to me and the feeling like she really cared. That
Right.
to me is the core.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, the difference between, because another in my little tips is having things that are different than others.
Mhm.
So, because I knew I wanted a latex bed, I wasn't it's a little different than if I, was going to Living Spaces and Mattresses R Us or whatever and trying to figure out what I wanted. But when we offer something that is different, and I'm going to use the baby photography picture, if we're offering what I call the baby burritos, which are wonderful.
Right.
But it's almost a franchise now where
Mhm.
you can find the most amazing photographers doing beautiful newborn portraits with babies wrapped with little, you know, like where you can't say, I know this is Janet Ferguson's work because
Right.
it it has
No, it's
that
the same.
kind of same look to it.
Yeah.
Whereas if Janet does something with newborns that are different than
Mhm.
anything else,
Right.
then that's more luxury.
Mhm.
I
Yeah, I
stepped into
agree.
Tiffany's um, at my mall during the shutdown, but when you could still go to stores, Tiffany's and Dolce Gabbana and some of the other really expensive stores had lines like half
Mhm.
hour long.
Mhm.
And K Jeweler and other stores that are more the middle, you could walk right in.
Right.
And so, of course, now Tiffany's has consistent color. They have
Mhm.
consistent packaging. People will buy something cheap at Tiffany. Not you can get something for like $50. Get the box and then put something else in there. And
Right.
Tiffany. But when I went online to look at their designs that they have on their website, at least, are not like anyone else's.
Mhm. Right.
And I imagine so. Another part of luxury is to be kind of ahead of the pack in style.
Mhm.
So, uh, back in my day, they color well, it's still my day, but there'd been black and white when I was little, and then color came out, and then
Mhm.
everybody was doing color. And then when I switched from weddings to baby portraits, and everyone was doing high key in
Mhm.
color, which
Right.
I really hate because it's so hard to get shape on the
Yeah.
face, all that white
Right.
bouncing around. And I started offering yummy black and whites, very clean and simple, some painted backgrounds, uh, babies without many clothes on, or if
Mhm.
any, then it was different than
Right.
anyone else's baby photographs.
Yeah.
Now, at a certain point, everyone started doing that, and I I do more outdoor and environmental portraits
Mhm.
and such. But finding that authentic, creative voice is the other thing that is a part of luxury.
Right.
It's not just different for the sake of different.
Mhm.
Like there's editing styles that
Right.
people are like, I need to find an editing style. But to me, it's all from in here. Does that
Mhm.
make
Right.
sense?
Yeah. Yeah, I in fact, I've had people tell me, like, "Oh, I could tell Tanya did these photos for your business,"
Right,
because it's not a certain editing style, it is just my philosophy of telling your story, clean photographs, perfect for marketing, but all style, and I'm not necessarily I mean, I have a pretty simple editing, it's just I like to show how things are, you know? I'm not doing
yeah,
anything super funky, but yeah, I've definitely had people like, there's a billboard or something of one of my clients, and they'll be like, "Oh, I bet Tanya did that photo." So yeah,
right,
I totally agree with you.
right,
Having a signature something that makes your brand recognizable.
right. And in some cases, it might just be having a higher taste level,
Right.
having better quality. I
Mhm.
was doing a little conversation. Was it clothing? Yeah, I think we were talking about advising clothing for
Mhm.
portraits. And my policy that I learned from, I stand on the shoulder of some amazing photographers that taught me a lot, is simple, timeless, solid colors,
Mhm. Right.
cover to the elbows, make it easy to sit down, have the colors coordinate with each other and with your home. And
Mhm.
so I started Googling um, family portraits to show examples of do's and don'ts.
Yeah.
And I kept clicking on like, oh, this one's perfect. And it was Gabby. Is it Chung? Do you know Gabby?
I think yeah, I think I've heard of
Oh,
her. I don't
over and
know.
over every image that she must have fabulous SEO
Right.
to
Like
do that.
Pinterest or something.
But it had that simplicity and nice posing. So you could recognize her style, not because it's
Mhm.
different, but
Right.
because it's very, very good.
Right.
My work humbly is very, very good.
Hmm.
It may not be like, oh, look, portrait at La Jolla on the beach. That has to be Lucy.
Right.
But there's a certain quality level, a competence that that needs to set us apart.
Mhm. Right.
Like,
So do you think that like high-end taste can be learned? I feel like I just haven't.
yeah,
But I notice, some people don't. Like a lot of, some
mhm,
of my clients don't really care about how they look. I recently did one office where clearly looks were not important to the whole office.
right,
I did a little bit of advising, like make sure your shirts are ironed and that kind of stuff. So yeah, I just wonder if that taste level can be taught. I mean, I have a background in graphic design and that kind of stuff, so
yeah,
maybe
yeah,
I learned a lot of that through my education, but
mhm,
also just kind of born with with it a little bit.
yeah, yeah. That's a good question. I definitely think, like, I've been surprised trying to find graphic artists to um, help my clients upgrade
Mhm.
what they do.
Right.
Like, I personally fired 4 myself in a year because
Mm,
they maybe would come up with a good logo design, and this was before the internet was really popular. So they weren't, because I think some graphic designers now, like, borrow them or buy templates or
oh,
something.
templates, yeah.
But these were custom, but either the taste level was so bad or they weren't listening to me.
Mhm.
Then when I found somebody that where branding was a class she took and she
Right.
understood how to discover and communicate, and she found a font that looked like my signature, only better.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
it was collaborative. So, but
Right.
that's a really good question because like, my
Yeah.
mom does not have good taste, and she was afraid of hanging a nail. Like, we had almost no art. We had one
Mhm.
photograph over or one painting over the couch. Well, maybe it was
Right.
of an ocean scene, but
Yeah.
she just had this fear.
Yeah.
So,
Right. Well, and I think sometimes, I mean, clients are hiring us because we have good taste, right? To help
that
them create that image. And actually, I do full service branding with my Work Story Creative, where same thing. Like, first, we do this massive intake to learn about you and your business, and then design the entire brand to look cohesive, to look high end, and that kind of stuff. It's not just graphic design, right? It's full branding. But,
right,
I get that feedback like it looks high end, it looks amazing, it communicated who I'm about. And I think that's so important. And it's important to get help with it if you don't have that knowledge or taste. And I love that, that's what your portrait clients are getting. They're getting something, not just pictures for the wall, but that whole package of looking amazing.
right, right. And my goal is always to create photographs that strangers would love,
Right.
but you happen to be in there. So
Hmm.
I would say, because I grew up in Central California, little California dusty farm, like
Hmm.
30,000 people, and then farms around it, and then
Right.
the armpit of Los Angeles, where it was horrible. Not a tree to climb,
Hmm.
horrible. And then I got to move to San Diego. But somewhere along the line, I started going to museums, studying art,
Hmm.
even like music, education
Right.
into the creative side of the world.
Hmm.
It gets in your brain, it gets in your soul.
Yeah, that's true.
There used to be an old poster that said "Expose yourself to art" with a guy with uh, a trench coat and
Oh,
facing the Mona Lisa.
that's funny.
So expose yourself to art.
Yeah. No, that's true. And I mean, I guess, my whole life I have been studying that kind of stuff. So maybe that's why it's just ingrained in me. But
Yeah.
so how are you marketing yourself to those, or how are you finding those high-end clients? I mean, you've been in business so long now, I'm sure you probably get mostly referrals, but how do you recommend people find those higher end clients?
So it starts with a really comprehensive ideal client list
Mm-hmm.
and beginning to understand what neighborhoods
Mm,
my ideal clients live in. So
mhm.
my ideal clients like to be pampered. They like restaurants where there are renowned chefs,
Right.
where they walk in and the person seating them after a while knows their name.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, good to see you again. Maybe we have a great little Italian neighborhood in my Italian restaurant in my neighborhood that makes you feel like you're in Italy. And I was there with some friends, and the waiter brought over a bottle of wine and said, the owner just thought you might enjoy this with your meal. And so my ideal clients, they because I'm not like super status kind of
Mm-hmm.
person. So that's not my ideal client, but my ideal clients buy cars that are nice looking and very high quality.
Mm-hmm.
They're not trying to impress their friends. They're making an investment. Probably a lot of them now do own Teslas,
Mm-hmm.
or they're going to buy an SUV that retains its value.
Right.
My ideal clients live in North County coastal San Diego and North County inland. They do not
Mm-hmm.
live in the southern part.
Mm.
Not that I wouldn't, like one of my very best clients lives in Southeast San Diego that comes to me every year for the last
Mm-hmm.
12 years to do a family album, which is fun watching those little girls.
Yeah.
Um, I even have people come up with a name because generations, like every 10 years, there's like a new cycle of names.
Mm-hmm.
So like there are a lot of Tanyas in your
Right.
age category. Right now, ideal clients in their like 30s, there's a lot of Rachels. There's
Mm-hmm.
a lot of pretty names. So
Right.
okay, so your question was, so how do you figure out one?
So what are you doing to market? So, knowing your target audience
Then
obviously is first.
the other thing is to figure out their pain points and not
Mm-hmm.
like anything about, oh, my kids are growing up, so I need a photograph, but
Yeah.
I'm stressed or, whatever
Right.
are their
Yeah,
worries.
probably one for you, I would say, is like talking about that DIY. Like they don't want to take their digital photos somewhere to get them printed. Like they want someone to do it all for them,
See,
right?
no, they
No? Okay.
always know they want that until I
Oh, okay.
start sharing how I'm going to help them, and then they're like,
Okay.
oh. So, yeah, I'm not gonna. That's a whole other. I'd have to tap into part of
Yeah.
my brain for those
Okay. All
points.
right.
But
Well, I
anyway,
guess like you said
so
though, they have more money than time, maybe. Like so
yeah,
that's why that would be valuable to them to have someone help them.
yes, yes. So my ideal clients, and there's so where they live, where they shop, the kind of service they like, that they like luxury, they like to be pampered, what their income, how much, like
Mm-hmm.
ideal clients like experiences. They have
Mm-hmm.
tickets to theater, symphony, they travel, um, so now I know those ideal clients, and then I find ways to find them.
Mm-hmm.
One of the most consistent is I do charity events.
Mm-hmm.
If I can get a gift certificate in the hands of my ideal client and their phone number, then it's on like Donkey Kong.
Mm-hmm.
Then I take them through the process and I
Right.
qualify because not everybody is going to want what I offer, even when
Mm-hmm.
they purchase a gift certificate.
Yeah.
But it's about figuring out. So, like, I know the neighborhood. So that one street that my friend opened his studio on, uh, I could get to know people in that business. I could, if allowed, I could join that. Um, if there's a business organization, like in my
Mm-hmm.
neighborhood, sadly, my ideal clients are not here, but we have a really robust business community.
Mm-hmm.
So networking, but not networking like push your card in front of people's face,
Right.
but building relationships. So
Hmm.
it starts with where the heck are my people, and
Right.
then creative. One of my coaching clients, we figured out that doing trade shows where people who have pets would go,
Mm. Oh
that
yeah.
also have money and like to
Right.
be pampered, and set up a booth there and a program to directly not just stand there like, okay, here's my thing, like it, but a way to get them in the world
Yeah.
and get him in front of my camera.
Hmm.
So that's the how I market. Where are
Yeah.
they? And then
Cool.
how do I find them? And there's like I don't know, a dozen sort of ways that photographers tried and true have marketed.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah.
So
In my branding photography course, I think I have 13 modules on marketing, just
yeah,
all different things I've tried, like, hey, whatever one fits in with your personality or that you would want to try, try one and see how it goes for you. Because I've tried so many things.
yeah, and
Yeah,
it changes too. And
right.
I find so I have a little ebook called 10 Big Ideas for Marketing in the Real World.
Oh, cool.
And it's about those things where we get away from the computer, off of
Hmm.
social media, and get
Yep.
out there
Yeah,
and like do something,
right.
not just like, oh, I've got a website now and I'm working on my SEO, but I'm getting no work. Well,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Yeah, I find SEO I don't get people finding me on Google, like hardly ever. People always ask me about that, and I'm like, well, I've worked on it, but I don't know. People are more likely to ask a trusted friend or another business, who did your photos, or
right.
even ask on social media. They're like, I'm looking for a photographer for my business. So I found that to be more, like, don't spend so much time trying to get your SEO up there. I don't know, maybe for weddings and stuff it's different. Maybe people are more likely to Google for that, but I haven't found it to be a good
Yeah. For
investment
me,
for me. So
the cheap and cheerful photographers who are doing some nice work and have some nice,
mhm,
there's beautiful templates for really cheap that make
right.
people look like they're high end photographers.
Mhm,
So and there's so many that put their pricing on there that when I do get a call from SEO and I start that process, I don't know over the last 10 years if I've ever booked a photography client from SEO because
yeah.
it's how do people know that you're and this is not to I keep saying these photographers are a lot of them are great photographers,
Mhm, right.
but how do you know the diamonds in a big bag of
Mhm,
um, man-made diamonds?
right.
Really hard to do. So
Yeah,
finding a place where people who really like diamonds and have the money to buy them hang out
right.
is
Yeah,
how you see
exactly.
a diamond.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree. Okay, so are there any other concepts you wanted to talk about that we didn't cover?
Let me think. I made my little list. Branding, environment, custom. So the feeling of something custom, we already talked
Mhm,
about
right.
the candles, the friendliness, don't be rushed. Simplicity brings elegance.
Mhm,
There was a photographer in San Diego who, when I started so many years ago, was at the top of the food chain, Victor Avila. And he always said simplicity brings elegance
mhm.
in his work, and his studio was beautiful. And yeah,
Yeah,
so
totally agree.
I think that's it. Uh, do communicating. I'm just looking through my little notes. Yeah,
Okay.
I think that.
Cool. Well, where can people find you? I mean, for the photographers, if they wanted coaching on portrait photography, or even, I think just my regular business people could benefit from listening to your podcast, some of the
Mhm.
episodes, right? Because it's kind of business in general too, totally applies.
Yep. So Lucy Dumas Coaching, Lucy with an I, is where you can find the 10 Big Ideas tips and the
Okay.
podcast. The podcast
Okay.
on all the shows, though, The Profitable Photographer with Lucy Dumas.
Mhm.
And I would be happy to gift 4 of your clients who may be ready for more of that overall business marketing,
Mhm.
trying to define between what you offer and what I offer. But if there's
Right.
4 people that are like, yeah, I need to really work on that foundational, grow my business in multiple ways,
Mhm.
I have space this in July for 4 absolutely free strategy sessions.
Oh, cool.
So you can just hit me up, lucy@lucydumas.com, or Facebook message me or whatever you want. And then we'll have a quick chat and see if it's a good fit.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, that sounds like a great thing to take advantage of. So yeah, find Lucy there on her website, or you can, if you're watching the replay, comment here. I'll make sure she sees it if you have any questions. And thank you so much for having me on. And I'm going to repost to the interviews you did for me on your podcast too, if anyone wants to listen to those.
Okay.
And then, yeah, thank you so much for coming and spending your time with us. And I'll probably see you on Facebook, I guess.
Oh, are you going to WPPI?
Probably not. I may go to
Imaging?
imaging
Yeah.
next year. I just joined PPA last month, so I'm thinking of maybe doing that if I can fit it in. So
Just a little shout out, when you're like, oh, when people be like, well, how do I make this all work?
right.
The reason I've been successful in business all these years is that as soon as I realized it existed, I joined my local, my state, and my national PPA organization.
Mhm.
And that was before you got $15,000 of equipment insurance from PPA.
Mhm. Right.
I was paying $400 a year for equipment insurance.
Yeah.
So the PPA membership, it just saved me that.
Right.
And got involved and got on the local board and took week-long classes that are part of PPA's affiliates,
Mhm.
and learned, and the camaraderie and the conversations with people like Miss Tanya over lunch, or afterwards having a little drink and snacks at a
Mhm.
conference.
Right.
So getting exposed to the people that are where you want to be,
Mhm.
and then supporting others.
Right.
Always, we learn more than we teach. I'm sure you
Mhm.
agree with that.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Cool.
Okay. Thank you, Tanya.
Yeah.
So
Thank you
it's
so
going to
much.
be also available in another form, or
So
it?
let's see. I have these on my group. I should have done it to YouTube. I forgot. I'll upload it to YouTube.
Okay.
So then you can share it.
Great.
Yeah, I'll do that. I should have. Normally, you can broadcast it to YouTube, and I forgot. I should have done it there. So yeah, but I can upload it there.
Okay.
So then you can share it.
Yeah. So
So
get in touch. Anybody that has questions, or if you want to see if that session's a good fit for you, or anything. And Lucy, the Profitable Photographer is my private group. So if
okay,
anyone wants to join that, you can just,
that's on Facebook.
yes.
On Facebook. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Thank
All
you.
right.
All right.
Yeah. Thank
Great
you.
weekend. And I'm sure you and I will be in touch.
Yep. Okay. Talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.